On this channel, I believe I've made something like 80 Assassin's Creed videos, and I'm sure I will make more in the future, especially when something comes up that I care about. But today I wanted to talk for a few minutes about what kind of pushed me away from the series for a long time, and what brought me back. And also, consequently, what pushed me away from making AC videos, just in general, and why I've kind of gone back to it over time and I would say started caring about it again. Now, I don't want this to be a very long video. I just kind of want to hit the facts and my opinions on how I felt about the series, how I felt about Ubisoft, how I felt even about the fandom, or parts of it, loud parts of it, and even other AC content creators to an extent, without being tacky, like without naming names and being like, oh, this guy over here or that guy. Because at the end of the day, I thought about doing that, but it just doesn't really matter. It doesn't add anything to the conversation. And this video is more about me and my experience than it is about other people. So I kind of want to talk about from my angle. But if you are someone who likes the AC videos, they're not going anywhere. I will still do them. And I do actually care again. I've gotten back into the series recently. This is just kind of what pushed me away. I do have a question of the day for you really quick today as we start, which is just in general, do you have a video game series, it might not be Assassin's Creed, maybe it is, that you fell out of or felt pushed out of in a lot of ways, and what was it and why? I would love to hear that, because with Assassin's Creed, it's a game series that has changed styles multiple times. Now, there's a lot of people who make hardline stances on things like RPG versus non-RPG. At the end of the day, it's kind of a mixed bag, and it's a little weird, because even though it was like an action-adventure game, kind of back when it started, it was still a game with a lot of RPG elements. It had role-playing elements to it. And over time, I would say it changed multiple times, multiple styles, getting a little more fluid in some cases, more glitchy in others, trying to aim for realism in some cases, and then kind of going more into Isu stories. Basically, the series has had a bit of an identity crisis for a very long time. And I would honestly argue that ever since something like Assassin's Creed 3, it started to change dramatically. Now, with Assassin's Creed 1 and 2, and even Brotherhood and Revelations, there's a very clear evolution of mechanics. There are people who enjoy the original game the most, there are people who enjoy 2 the most, etc., but in general, it was always building off of itself. It always had this core story set in the modern, real-life world, also combined with a core story set in the past, and the 2 main playable characters, Desmond in the main world, kind of your avatar in the main world, and whoever you played as in the past, whatever ancestor, pretty much Altair or Ezio in that era of games, obviously. Those 2 had interacting stories and interlocking narratives that played off of each other very well. And I would argue that the gameplay always felt like it was evolving with each game, at least in some way. But when you got to Assassin's Creed 3, it changed quite a bit. I still really liked it, but the combat was wildly different. The climbing was very different. And then this kind of kept happening. You know, there was like an era of this type of gameplay, 3, 4, Rogue. Then we went into an era of a little more streamlined gameplay, even more so with Unity and Syndicate. I'm cutting out some side games here, obviously, for the sake of time. And then we eventually got into the RPG era where it really did just go all in on those RPG elements and in numbers and things like that. And I think for me, it's not that you can't make different types of games, but the fact that Ubisoft never really cared to continue different styles of their games, that they would make 1 or 2 or 3 of them and then kind of throw that style out, then move on to a different style. That was one thing that was off-putting to me, where it felt like if I got really passionate about one version of this game, there was only going to be a couple of them and then they were going to be gone, even though they were still going to be making things with the Assassin's Creed name on it. And I noticed that happened with the story as well. You know, I was someone who was actually very invested in Desmond Miles. I get some people weren't, but it was a very core part of like the first 5 games. 1, 2, Brotherhood, Revelations, 3, actually, I would even argue 4 to some extent. If you're paying attention, doing the hacking, things like that, it still played very heavily into it. And to see that storyline kind of sacrificed and thrown out, them having no idea what to do with it, then seeing them kind of move on to Layla, then kind of moving on from that, and now doing things like text files in almost a battle pass-esque style of modern day story in something like AC Shadows, and then claiming that it was deep. These are all things that, like, over time, it becomes hard to defend, you know? Not that you have to defend something you like, but what I mean is, like, it becomes hard to defend wanting to spend money on it and spend a bunch of time on it when I felt like that money and time was at times really not valued by the company making it. You know, where it was like, I'm someone out here supporting the ideas that you have early on, and then they just get thrown out. So I guess for me, that's like a big part of what pushed me away was Ubisoft. And, you know, one thing that did bring me back, if I want to give Ubisoft credit, was Assassin's Creed Mirage. Mirage is not a perfect game, but it was a game that really felt like it wanted to go back in on the gameplay style of what these games used to be, while combining it with the technical limitations of the technology that they had available. Like, they pretty much had to make it in the RPG engine, they had to do all these things, and yet they were still able to make a sandboxy game that felt very similar in ways to the original Assassin's Creed. So it's like, I know that they have the talent to do this. I know they have the talent to make good games. That just pushed me away from it for quite a while, and a game like that brought me back, but then Shadows is really a mixed bag for me too. So we're kind of yo-yoing all over the place. But, you know, speaking of Mirage, something I noticed with that too was I was very excited for Mirage. And this is around the time that I started to notice that not only were there people disenfranchised with the way Ubisoft was acting, like I was, but there were a lot of people who were disenfranchised with other people who wanted to enjoy the games. So at the end of the day, when I'm talking about these games, I have no ill will for someone whose favorite game ever is AC Shadows. That might be someone's favorite video game of all time. I don't care. You know, I have other stuff going on in my life. I have my stuff that I care about, and, like, I'll tell you if I don't like it, or I'll tell you if I think you're supporting something that's not great. But at the end of the day, it's like, it's your money and it's your taste, and you're allowed to like what you like, right? I've always had that opinion. Short of illegal and very immoral things, you doing whatever you want as long as it doesn't affect me is mostly a motto I live by. That's fine. But I noticed that with Mirage, there were so many people that were just angry if anything positive about the game came up. And I even made a video about this at the time saying I just really didn't understand Assassin's Creed fans, or modern Assassin's Creed fans at the time that was coming out. Where I was sitting here looking at this and saying, hey, this actually looks good. Hey, this element looks good. This looks like it could be good. And people would get very angry about it because they were so determined the series had to be bad because they hated what they had done really for a lot of them since Syndicate. Like, the last one they liked was Unity, or maybe 4 or Rogue. And so no matter what anybody did, it had to be bad automatically before it was even out. Even if you had the opinion of like, you know, I hope this is good, that was bad. And that was kind of a point where I was realizing, like, oh, not only do I not really like the way Ubisoft has treated this series, you know, later on going on to also shut down their multiplayers and more unique experiences like that, cutting out lore, cutting out canon elements that mattered to the story to this point. Not only was I frustrated by that, I was also frustrated by the people who were actually fans of these games. You know, this is a problem I've had with Star Wars, too. It's not that people can't complain. I'll complain. I'll tell you I didn't enjoy The Last Jedi. I'll tell you why. But I don't care if somebody did, you know? And I've noticed that this is a big thing on YouTube, is like, this person had this really bad take or this really bad review, I'm going to go skewer it, or this person did this, I'm going to go skewer it. There are times where I'll do this with a really horrible take, I think, on like some video game journalism outlet or something. But in general, like, most of my videos and most of my stance has always been, here's the things I care about, here's what I like and don't like. Mostly, you leave me alone, I leave you alone. Unless something is terribly egregious, in which point I will say, like, hey, this article is a piece of garbage, and the person writing it is crazy. But short of that, like, there's very few things I'll kind of go at that angle from. I don't think I have ever, in my life, actually, and I mean this, even when I was a teenager, like, even when I was a hormonal, out-of-control, angry teenager, I'm actually thinking back, I don't think I ever, in my life, went on like some random YouTuber's videos and was like, fuck you, buddy, you can't like this thing, or anything like that, ever. Because even at the time, being a borderline high school incel, like, couldn't really get a date, didn't have a lot of friends, was a total nerd. Regardless of my status in life, I still had more going on than needing to do that, than needing to lash out in that way at people that I didn't know. And so being exposed to that side of the AC fandom, especially around Mirage, where it was like, okay, yeah, I get complaining, I get being frustrated and voicing your thoughts, but look, this is Ubisoft literally listening to a lot of those thoughts and trying to make something out of it. It reminded me of like superhero fans or Star Wars fans or whatever, where they will say, no, I want this thing, no, I want this thing, no, I want this thing, and then they do get that thing and they're like, no, fuck you still. It kind of just, to me, sends a message to Ubisoft that they don't need to try to please their consumer base, because most of their consumer base will just buy it anyway. And the other part is so up their own ass and stubborn about it that even if they do make something good, they won't buy it anyway. Like, they're like, well, you lost me at AC4. Even if you went back and did a perfect game like that again, like let's say that was a perfect game to me, I still won't buy it because fuck you. You can have that opinion, but like going on videos and bitching about it over and over, it really just kind of put me off to everything around Assassin's Creed. Because I was like, oh, so is this the group that I'm making these videos for? Like, just these angry people? I don't really need that around me, you know? And so I just kind of gave up on that front, too. Interestingly, what brought me back to the series on that front when it comes to other people was my wife, Jill, and my friend, Nate. You know, because for a while, it was like I was letting these people, I would say, affect something I liked in that way. They weren't even people who worked on it. They were just people who consumed the product. They didn't even make videos about it. Like, it's, I mean, you could say, like, I'm also a consumer of things, but I can at least turn around and make something out of it. You know, I can share my opinions, give a literary analysis, talk about something, share something out of the thing. Like, this was just a whole group of people who all they did was play the game, which is fine, okay? And you can have that, you can play a game and have a negative or positive opinion, but then their reaction to playing the game was to go online and lash out at other people who didn't make the game about the game. That's unhinged and weird. And that, for me, really also pushed me away from it until, like, I kind of started saying, you know, to my friend Nate, because my friend Nate, my friend T, me, Jill, you know, we all do this Let's Play channel where we play through games, which I put in the description of pretty much every video. It's Degenerate Plays. And Nate and I had started playing through these games again, and I started playing through them, you know, privately too with my wife Jill, and realizing I really like especially early Assassin's Creed. You know, I got more to say about it. I've got more I would love to talk about in the future. And kind of having those bonding experiences and remembering why I liked the series in the first place, that really, I think, it's something that we lose on the internet. You know, so often it's like there's so many negative, angry people about stuff that we either feel like we can't go on the internet because they're just crazy, or they will affect our opinions on things because they're so annoying, you know, and frustrating. And I think kind of like narrowing down my circle on that and going back more to just the people who I care about in my life and enjoying that with them, it really helped me appreciate those things more and actually appreciate why I liked them in the first place instead of just letting people, you know, push me away from it. It's something that happened with Star Wars too. Like I said, I think for a long time there was a point where it was like people just annoyed me so much that I just didn't want anything to do with Star Wars. It just was not fun. And then it hit a point where I was like, why am I letting these people influence me in that way? And I do have one other thing like that too, which is content creators. I have found that in the last 5 years of YouTube especially, there has been a huge push from the YouTube infrastructure to niche in on one thing, whether you want to try other things or not. And I've talked about this in the past. It's not the focus of this video, but it is important context for it. And so I noticed that a lot of times you will have YouTubers who do focus on one thing, not always, but a lot of times, who really, really stretch it in order to have anything to talk about. Like, what size are Ezio's feet in this game versus this game? Or, why this one thing is bad and anyone who likes it should die. You'll have like all these very like weird niche topics that I don't understand how anyone cares about, that are very clearly pushed by the YouTube algorithm for money. So then when people do come along, especially smaller channels, I would say a lot smaller than even mine, with something interesting to say, that just goes unnoticed. And so it gives you, if you're like a variety channel like me, that already gives you a non-incentive to cover something heavily niched down like Assassin's Creed, where there's a good 15, 20 main channels on the site that's all they cover. And I'm sure some of them are that passionate about it, but a lot of them you can tell are just genuinely not. It's just a money thing. And I had some very bad experiences with certain Assassin's Creed YouTubers, one of whom said some pretty, I interpreted it as very vile things to me and my wife about like our livelihood, our experience, like the videos we made, stuff like that. It's someone I since have talked to in private who I genuinely believe would either have to be the best liar of all time or truly did not understand the implications of what they were saying and did not understand how much it would affect someone. Because like, I'm someone who does try to respect fellow content creators on this site for the most part, unless you're a psycho. And I really just don't reach out to them with bad things to say almost ever. I don't really do reaction videos to other YouTubers. Maybe some point I will, but right now in my life, I don't like it. I find it mostly to be lazy content. And so for me to like, see someone that I was like, oh, this person's pretty cool. They seem very nice. When I was in a moment of like very big frustration, very big depression in my life, and Assassin's Creed was something that was making me happy, but I was also, noticing Ubisoft going away from what made it special to me, the fandom kind of turning on itself and trying to eat itself like some kind of Ouroboros, swallowing its own tail. When I was kind of seeing these things and then experiencing this really big lashback from this one AC creator, who I'm just not going to name because, again, it's not worth it, it was kind of something where I was like, oh, so the company sucks, the people who play these games suck, and the people who make videos about this suck. It just kind of feels like everything except playing the game sucks. And I've already played the games. I'm good. And I think, it's something that can happen to a lot of people where you get these external forces that weigh on you and push you away from something you used to love. And I really fell out of love with Assassin's Creed, even the ones that I deem to be the best ones or the good ones, because of a lot of these things. It's taken a long time for me to kind of come back on it and say, actually, you know what, I really want to play this one, or actually I really enjoy this one still, and I'm not going to let people ruin it for me. And I think I've done a better job with it. And I still do want to make some videos on it, but I have gotten comments before like, hey, what happened to the videos on that, Why do you not want to do them anymore? Things like that. And that's just kind of why, it's like, there were so many things and people that I felt were just obnoxious and negative and not worth my time around the series, that other than just occasionally playing them by myself, which I had already done, what was the point? And I've kind of been thinking about it and realizing that even though I'm sure there will be other things like that where it's off-putting to me and things around it are off-putting to me, it's not worth letting people control something that I can enjoy like that, It's why I want to make some more videos on this series, like when I have good, things to say or things I think are interesting, at least to share with you. But I did think I owed you kind of an update on like why I didn't talk about it as much for a while, what I think about it, and where I'm at with it. But anyway, I'm interested to hear your comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, you want to leave a like, subscribe, click hype on the video if you're on mobile phone. That kind of stuff means a lot to me. I appreciate it very much. And also as well, we do have our own store, cosmobunny.shop. Coasters, keychains, trays, and more from recycled comic book paper from comics and manga and magazines that have been damaged. What we do is we take those things, we make something new and transformative out of it, and then we recycle the rest. So discount code DJAY123, 10% off over there. We have new items up on that shop as well, going to a in real life show very soon. So a lot of stuff happening with that. New items are on clearance, and if you want to sign up for notifications for things like deals, you can go to the bottom of the very front page of that website, and there's an option to subscribe for email notifications on there. So we appreciate you so much. Have a fantastic day, and as always, everyone, stay shway.